Do you feel like your posture throughout the day is resulting in this? Let us show you how to fix this issue. Dr. Arash here, and today we're gonna dive into that mid-back hump, also referred to as the dowager's hump, in our 6 favorite exercises to help this issue. It's important to note that it's normal to have some rounding of your mid-back. This is termed as kyphosis. However, when that curve is greater than 40 degrees of flexion, that's when it becomes hyperkyphotic, aka excessive kyphosis. Now, this position requires your neck to extend in order for you to look straight, and it creates that hump at the base of your neck. This is important to address because that extra curvature of your mid-back limits general mobility, impairs lung function, and increases the risk for falls and fractures. So how does this happen in the first place? Well, the erector muscles are the muscles on the back. They are the spinal extensors, meaning they keep the spine upright. When these spinal extensors become weak or they reduce in muscle mass, it's associated with rounding of the back, which makes sense because you can't hold your thoracic spine in this upright position. If we spend an extended amount of time in that flexed position, we end up losing thoracic spine mobility over time, and this only worsens that dowager's hump. If we want to improve our mid-back posture, we look to target range of motion that promotes thoracic spine extension, as well as rotation and side bend. Activate the muscles that support the thoracic spine and strengthen the entire kinetic chain surrounding the thoracic spine, including the shoulder blades and the ribs. All right, let's get into the fun stuff and dive into some exercises that you should be doing daily that will help that rounded posture of yours. And stick around until the end so we can show you our favorite exercise. Let's first begin with 3 thoracic spine mobility exercises. Remember, the thoracic spine moves in 3 planes of motion: flexion, extension, rotation, and then side bend. Let's first begin with extension because that is the most important when we're looking at that dowager's hump or that excessive kyphosis. So let's first begin by placing that thoracic spine just underneath that mid-back. Now, the most commonly stiff areas are the lower portion of that mid-back, close to the low back, and then the upper portion right towards the neck. And make sure to keep that neck supported as you use a foam roller as you go up and down. And if you notice a certain spot that feels stiff, for example, that area at the top of the mid-back close to the neck is a commonly stiff area. Now you can just hinge back and forth, bring the head back, look up towards the sky, and then use your hands to lift your head back down and repeat back and forth here. So this can happen anywhere where you feel that stickiness. And if you don't have a foam roller, that's okay. You can place towels up against the edge of a chair and do the same thing with hinging back and forth on those areas that feel extra stiff. Now, as you do this, it's important to note that you don't want the ribs to flare out like this. What that's doing is actually creating the extension from the lower back. You want to keep the ribs down, keep that core engaged a little bit, and that way when you extend, you're extending from that thoracic spine or that mid-back. That's the area we really want to focus on. So that's the first movement, to focus on thoracic spine extension, and you can hang out there for about a minute. Now, let's go into rotation. With rotation, I really like this open book exercise where we use a block in between our knees just to keep a neutral position. So, and you don't have to use a block, you can use towels as well just to keep that neutral position. We'll begin in a side lying position with your knees up towards your chest. This will ensure that the low back locks out for the same reason that we don't want to cheat too much from the lower back. We want to move from that mid back. Now, you can keep your head rested, place both hands on one side, and we're going to open the book by bringing the arm all the way across. Try to touch the floor or go as far as you feel comfortable. Go to that end position, hold for a couple seconds, make sure to breathe into it, and then return back to that starting position. And we're just gonna repeat back and forth for 10 repetitions here. Now, you can use your head as well to rotate. It's great to get some thoracic spine, cervical spine or neck rotation here as well. You can try to look towards your hand. And what you want to focus on is getting that mid back to move. Now, if you really don't feel that and your opposite shoulder is going all the way towards the floor, that's fine. You can intensify this stretch by bringing this knee up and over towards the floor and holding it there. Now bring that opposite arm across. You're going to further lock out that lower back, ensuring that only that motion comes from that mid back area and it should be more challenging. Again, the higher you bring the knee, the more challenging this is gonna be. If you feel like you can't all the way get there, that's fine. Lower the knees a bit, and you're gonna get a little more motion from that low back, but try to make sure that you get that stretch in the thoracic spine, because that's the purpose of this movement. Now, the third movement is going to be a side bend. We're gonna focus getting the side bend by starting in this half kneeling position with both hands behind your head. And now what you wanna do is drive towards that bottom knee. So I have my right knee on the floor. My right elbow is gonna come down towards that right knee as far as I can. Breathe into it, exhale, and then return back to that starting position. Same thing here, that you wanna do about 10 reps of 5-second holds at that bottom position. And you may feel a stretch in these oblique muscles, that's perfectly fine. But eventually you're gonna get that side bend motion that we wanna get from the thoracic spine. And it's really important to note with this movement that you don't cheat by bringing the spine into flexion like this as you reach down. You wanna keep your chest upright and allow for pure side bend to occur. And if anything, you can bias towards extending the back and side bending, because it's very common that people will cheat by bringing the elbow into the floor by flexing their mid-back. You want to keep that mid-back extended. So those are the 3 mobility movements. Let's jump into some strengthening movements next. It's critical to follow any mobility exercise with some type of activation or strengthening movement. So the first one I'm going to show you is a bow and arrow with a row. What you're going to do for this is anchor a band about shoulder height, stand away from the band to have some type of resistance. With one hand facing the anchor, you're gonna pull your elbow back as far as you can, squeeze that shoulder blade. As you do that, you wanna also create thoracic spine extension. Don't pull in that flex position. So you're gonna create extension and pull back with the shoulder blade as far as you can. Return back to that starting position. Now this is key. As you return back, let the chest rotate towards the anchor to create rotation of the thoracic spine. Don't let the hips rotate. The hips should be straight. Let that arm come back, the chest rotates, and then pull back. This will create a lot of that rotation that you want to improve. Now, a variation to that to make it even more challenging is facing the anchor, hand towards that anchor, pull back, rotate the thoracic spine as far as you can. See how I'm getting my chest to open up towards you, and then repeat by going back and forth. And hold that position for a good second to make sure all those muscles activate back there. Perform that for 10 repetitions on each side. Let's perform a cat-cow with the thoracic spine bias now. With this variation of the cat-cow, what you want to focus on is bringing the butt towards your heel. What this does is actually locks out the lower back. That way, when you perform that cat-cow, you can focus on that mid-back or the thoracic spine. So what you want to do is push into the floor, round the back as much as you can, and then do the opposite and arch the back. This is the part that you really want to focus on here. And if you need to, really squeeze those shoulder blades together to get that extension of the mid-back. And then you're going to repeat back and forth. This one's great for postural awareness, so that way you know where your thoracic spine is in space. Okay, after you do this for about 10 repetitions, what you want to do is build the strength of those muscles behind your scapula and low back and mid back. And this one will really build the strength. This is called a thoracic spine Superman. So what I'm doing here is putting my chest on top of a Swiss ball. What you can do is get a bunch of towels together as well and do the same thing. And you're gonna pull back your shoulder blades as far as you can. You have a couple different options here. You can bring them out to the side. Ideally, you go up towards your head, or if that's too difficult, you bring your hands actually towards your back pockets. So either variation works. If you feel up for it, try to reach up towards your head, pull back the shoulder blades, extend the mid-back as much as you can, and then lower. If you feel like you're arching from that lower back, keep the core engaged. That way you avoid that extension from the low back and maximize the motion occurring from the mid-back area. So hold for a couple seconds and then repeat it. Go back to the floor and repeat. So 10 repetitions there. Again, if that's too difficult or you don't have the option of using a Swiss ball, couple towels here on the floor, you're doing the same thing by pulling back as much as you can, avoid low back extension, get that mid back to extend. and those 3 exercises will be great for activating and strengthening your mid-back. Thanks for sticking around, and hopefully this helped. If you want to learn more, check out the thoracic spine mobility content in the Prehab app. Okay, here are 3 takeaways from this video. Number 1, the anatomy of the thoracic spine encompasses motions including flexion, extension, rotation, and side bend. When we begin to take on a hyperflex posture, these muscles of the mid-back weaken and atrophy, which leads to a stiff thoracic spine. Okay, number 2, we want to restore thoracic spine motions in all directions. This includes exercises like the thoracic spine foam rolling, open books, and half kneeling side bends. Consistency is key to create sustained change, so remember to perform these at minimum once per day, ideally twice if you want to expedite the change. Number 3, we want to strengthen the thoracic spine postures with motions like the cat-cow with thoracic spine bias, bow and arrow rows, and thoracic spine supermans to maintain that mobility. All right, thanks for tuning in, Prehab.
Oh, hey, you're still here. Thanks for watching the video and taking control of your health.
Make sure to smash that subscribe button and check out our other YouTube content.
And did you know that we have a website and an app that you can prehab your entire body? Be sure to check out the link in the description.